Welcome to Money with Sabrina, the practical podcast for women building wealth differently. I'm Sabrina, a certified money coach and living proof that you can rewrite your money story at any time, no matter where you're starting from. Each week, we go deep into the reasons high earners stay stuck and exactly what to do instead. Whether you've got debt, a thin savings, or just feeling stuck or like you should be further along, then you are in the right place. Today, we are talking about the financially secure framework. So first, let's talk about what is the financially secure framework. I built this framework to walk my clients through the exact process that they need to go through in order to feel financially secure. Personal finances are incredibly personal. However, there is a systematic way that you should be approaching them in order to be the most efficient as possible and to get the results that you want in the fastest amount of time. So I created the financially secure framework as a step-by-step plan, and this is the exact process that I walk my clients through when we are working on their financial goals. And if you follow this process, you will be able to pay off debt, build wealth, and get rid of financial anxiety. There are 4 pillars. That's it. And what I really like about this framework and why I built it is that it's not meant to be a linear process. So many other money frameworks out there, you have to complete one step before you move to the next step. They build upon each other. And while I do understand that, life is not linear. If you are someone who is coming into your personal finance journey and you have a lot of debt, it is going to take you a long time to pay that debt off. And if you're just focusing on paying off debt, you are losing the value of time when it comes to building wealth. And time is really the greatest asset that you have when we're talking about building wealth. So I created this framework in a way that is not linear. You can bounce between pillars at any time based on what's going on in your life and your finances. And so that's one of the things that I love the most about this framework. All right, let's get into it. So pillar 1 is know your numbers. Every single person should be starting at pillar 1. Every client that comes into my world starts at pillar 1. So much anxiety around your personal finances come from not knowing your numbers. You can't change what you don't know. You can't adjust what you won't measure. And so this pillar is all about understanding where you start today. You do a financial audit, you look at what's going in, what's going out, we identify any leaks in your income, and we free up any money that needs to be freed up based on how your spending habits are. There are also 3 critical numbers that everyone needs to know. And this pillar is all about figuring out those numbers. Number 1 is your net worth. This is a snapshot of your overall financial health. It's a calculation of how much you own, so your assets, minus how much you owe, so your debts. That number is your net worth. Now, if you are just starting your personal finance journey, there's a very high probability that number might be negative to start with, and that is okay. Listen, I started my journey at a negative. I always say 36,000, but really when I did the math, it was closer to 80,000. There was 36 between credit cards and student loans. And then I had an additional 20 some odd $1,000 in a subprime car loan. And I owed the IRS $36,000. So my net worth was negative when I started my journey, and that's okay. The second critical number that you need to know is your fixed expenses. This is your baseline expense. This is how much your life cost every single month without doubt. So these are all of your fixed expenses. I want you to know how much it costs to maintain your life every single month. So this is your bare bones number. And then the third number is your savings rate. This is the gap between how much you earn and how much you keep. Your savings rate is one of the biggest indicators of your financial health. So that's a really important one. You want to make sure that you know that number. You can have a really high salary, but if you have a non-existent savings rate, that high salary isn't doing you much good versus somebody who maybe has a lower salary, but has a 20-30% savings rate. They are going to be in a much better financial situation. This is also the pillar where we will build your budget. Now, the way that I built out this framework is there are some very clear indicators as to when you can move to the next pillar. It's not always about completing the pillar. It's more so about setting up the systems that are the foundations for the pillar. So you know that you are done with pillar 1 when you know your 3 critical numbers and when you have a written budget identified. then you are done with pillar 1 and you can move on to pillar 2. Pillar 2 is all about the emergency fund. And this might be the single most important pillar out of all 4 pillars. Your emergency fund is not a luxury. It is your insurance for life. It is the thing that keeps one bad week from turning into 6 bad months. You need to have a minimum of 3 months of bare bones expenses in a high yield savings account. And I say minimum because the amount that everybody needs is going to be a little bit different depending on your situation. Go back to the last episode and listen to it. I went into detail about how much you should have an emergency fund based on your individual situation. But your emergency fund is very important. So pillar 2 is all about figuring out what your emergency fund number is. What is your bare bones budget number? How much you need for each individual month, and then setting that up. So you know that you've completed pillar 2, not when your emergency fund is fully funded, because for some people that may take years. You know that you are done with pillar 2 once you have your high yield savings account set up. So the dedicated account for your emergency fund. So many clients, when they come to me, they have their emergency fund mixed in with all of their savings. They keep everything together in one savings. They have a vacation fund, Christmas fund, emergency fund, and car repair money, extra money, whatever, all in one savings account. The problem with that is that it's very easy to dip into your emergency fund without even realizing it. So I want your emergency fund in its own separate high yield savings account, ideally within its own bank. That way there's a little bit of friction between you using it. And so you know you are done with pillar 2 when you have your high yield savings account identified and set up, and you know how much your bare bones budget needs to be. So you know how much you need to have in your emergency fund, and you have set up some sort of automation to contribute to that fund every single month. And number 4, you have at least 1 month of expenses saved. So we're not going to hang out in pillar 2 until you have your full 3, 6, 12 months, depending on your situation. You are only in pillar 2 until you've gotten to the rhythm of setting some money aside into your emergency fund, and you have 1 month of bare bones expenses set aside. You can move on to pillar 3. Now, pillar 3 is when we start to really see some momentum. Pillar 3 is all about attacking high interest debt. This pillar is all about getting completely clear on what you owe, building a plan to eliminate the high interest debt, and stopping the cycle of repeat. So in this pillar, we're going to map out everything that you owe, all of your debts, all of your minimum payments. We're going to understand the APRs on it, and we're going to make a plan for how we're going to attack that. There are a couple of ways. There's the avalanche method and there is the snowball method, are 2 really popular ways to approach debt. But in this pillar, we're going to decide which of those methods we're going to use, and then we're going to make a plan for how to do it. You know that you have completed pillar 3 when you have a very clear idea of your debt. You know exactly who you owe, how much you owe them, and how long it's going to take you to pay that off. You have a plan for that debt. You've identified what payoff method you're going to use and what order you will be attacking your debt. You have stopped using the credit cards, and all of your debts are on auto pay for the minimum amount. I don't want you missing payments and being hit with late fees. So we are going to put all of that debt, just the minimum payments, on auto pay. That way, if something happens, life comes up as it does, you're not hit with a late fee because you forgot to pay this one credit card. So that's when you know that you are done with pillar 3. Now, pillar 4, this is where things get good. This is your wealth building pillar. This is where your net worth stops being a number and starts being a vehicle for your future. Investing for retirement, building wealth, investing for wealth, not someday, with a plan that's automated, aligned to your goals, and built to grow while you actually live your life. So in this pillar, we are going to map out a retirement plan, just getting a general idea of how much money do you need to retire and what are the ways that you plan to get there. So that's the work that we're doing in this pillar. This pillar is an ongoing pillar. I don't know that we ever really finish this pillar, but you know that you are finished with this pillar when you reach an investment amount that is enough that you can retire. Very simple. Now, here's why this works. Following these 4 pillars, you will start to build wealth for yourself and for your family. You're going to get clear on where you stand today. You're going to get a plan for your money. You're going to protect yourself with an emergency fund. You're going to get clear on your high interest debt because it is literally robbing you of your future, and you're going to make a plan to pay that off. because debt is a wealth killer all on its own. And then we're going to start planning for your future. I love this framework because it takes all of the guesswork out of personal finance. And no, it doesn't have to be linear. You can tweak it as it fits your life. That is the point. All right, y'all. If you have any questions about this episode, hit me up on Instagram at It's Saprina, ITSSAPRINA. Hit me up in the DMs. I answer every single one of them, and I'll see you on the next episode.